San Jose and Stilica, great play from Weir. Can he make a telling cross? Salguero dropping it for his goalkeeper Augustin. Bonnet watching it back to Augustin. Got Stilica infield to Gallego. No sign of a second Aberdeen substitute so far. I wonder if that may change before the end of the match. There's Juanito running at the defence, and Leighton again very alert, coming off his line to stifle the threat. Bonnet full stretch. Support from San Jose and from Ankel. Salguero. McLeish wanted Leighton to come out, but then he went to the far sidelines, which flag was up for offside. So McLeish brings Strachan into the match. Woodby waiting on the right. Strachan prefers Simpson in the centre circle. That's for McGee. Checking inside San Jose, still going forward, and the free kick is given against Mark McGee. Well, that's a surprise. I wonder in fact that might have been for handball. I don't know, Joker. It certainly didn't seem to be a foul against Mark McGee. He fought for the ball, certainly. It's an interesting one. You know, it's almost as if there wasn't a foul. Possibly the handball, possibly right, yeah. Can't see another infringement on the part of Mark McGee. In fact, he might have been unlucky not to get a decision himself. I don't know what Augustin's instructions have been from Alfredo Di Stefano, but he has shown no urgency whatsoever throughout the match to get the ball back in play. There's Rugby. Miller. Well won by Bonnet. Strachan's header now collected by Stilica. Still Aberdeen 1, Real Madrid 1. Eric Black's 7th minute goal equalised by Juanito from the penalty spot in 14 minutes. And thereafter it's been goalkeeping of Augustin which has prevented Aberdeen from having a trophy in the dressing room by now. San Jose. He's just missed it, and clearance from McMaster finds its way only to Gallego. Here's Juan Jose, Master again. Simpson, very determined. He wanted it more than Ankel, so it seemed at any rate. He's got his reward. Here's Gordon Strachan. Hewitt's on the right. Takes over now from Strachan. That's a fine tackle. Salguero. Following up his good tackle to keep play flowing forward for Real. Here's Stilica. And now Ankel. Bonnet. Hadn't got the stayed back for the moment. San Jose plays it forward. Touch on from Santillana. Juanito turning very sharply indeed, but McMaster has him covered. Oh, that's great play from McMaster. He's had a fine match for Aberdeen at left full back. Now Simpson, powerhouse in midfield, still striding forward. No sign of fatigue in his legs. Now can we take on Juan Jose? Delicate little chip. A touch on for Hewitt. Was he impeded? The ball is still free, and the linesman's flag is up on the near side. Vital touch on from Mark McGee, but it's Hewitt who's penalised. Well, showing lots of determination, but yes, perhaps Hewitt just a bit overzealous in the challenge. Certainly Real are getting the free kick. Well, tension really must be unbearable on that Aberdeen bench. Tough time for managers, Billy.
It's a terrible job because normally you're sitting there saying, well, if we lose a goal now it's going to be difficult to get back. But at the end of this, after putting so much into the game, you're going to have to face the possibility of penalty kicks to decide what's going to happen, which must be really terrible for Fergie.
But we've still got 10 minutes left of extra time. See if that can be avoided. McMaster. Playing it wide to Midgott. Gallego playing it forward. I think Kel's made a run the right. They're all over the midfield tonight for Real. He's popped up on the left, in the middle and on the right.
Real have really just spread players, John. They're broken from the back at will, and they haven't played any great set position from the midfield. And even the lad Salguero who's come on has played all over the place.
Bonito now lining up the free kick for Real. Packed Aberdeen penalty box. Master has won many balls in the air at the Aberdeen box. He won that one too. But it's Juan Jose for Real. Bonito has stayed in that deep position. I'm sure Real would rather have him in the box. Peter Weir. Delightful little chip forward. San Jose the covering player for Mark McGee. Hewitt's waiting in the middle. Yes! And that is a magnificent goal for Aberdeen. John Hewitt celebrates. 7 minutes into the second half of extra time. There's 8 minutes left. And the Aberdeen supporters go berserk. What a great goal it was. A cross from Mark McGee. Beautifully met by Hewitt. Augustine for once had no chance at all. Just look at this jubilation scenes among the Aberdeen supporters. A goal which was surely richly deserved. Created by McGee on the left, finished by John Hewitt, and the substitution once again works for Aberdeen.
It's a great goal, Jock, and a great moment for Aberdeen, isn't it? Because they've deserved that goal, and now they've got it, and they've got a very crucial part of the game. It's all about holding on to it now for another 5 or 6 minutes.
And immediately Real push Midgott into a striking position. Now they'll have to show lots of urgency. Aberdeen will call all the reserves of courage and strength to withstand what will surely be a massive onslaught from the Spanish side. Remember too the part played by Peter Weir in that goal when he flighted that delightful chip forward to Mark McGee. McGee fouled and he turned.
We're talking about some 7 or 8 minutes left, Jock, and Aberdeen have put so much into the game. It would be really unfair to lose in.
McGee going all the way himself, and Augustine again saves it. Well, that would have been the clincher. McGee showing tremendous running strength this late in a very, very tough match. This time the free kick goes to Real.
If you analyse it, Jock, Augustine's had a great game for Real Madrid because he's kept them in the game time and time again, and as you mentioned, that would have been the nail in the coffin.
Still now finding Juan Jose. Cannot be any lapse in concentration now by Aberdeen. And that save from Leighton, cleanly catching the high ball, will do no harm to the confidence of his players. Now Salguero. John Hewitt scoring his 5th goal in the competition this season. Again, usually coming on as sub, and there's Alfredo Di Stefano now getting a lot more heated about his instructions from the track. Well, it's 11 years since Scotland sampled European success when Rangers beat Moscow Dynamo in Barcelona, just 5 years after Celtic made the breakthrough in the European Cup against Inter Milan in Lisbon. My right lifted aloft the European Cup to become the first British player to do so, but this could be another night to remember for Scottish football.
I think so, John. I certainly was the first Scottish player to lift that European Cup, and obviously I think I'm going to be joined tonight, Wally Miller, and I can't think of anyone really better to join me in that, and John Gregg, of course.
There's 3 illustrious names in the history of Scottish football. Well, let's not count the chickens. We still have 5 minutes left. Can Real do anything to change the way the game appears now to be flowing? Well, that's good play from Strachan. He knew he had support from behind, retained possession, and now Rookview striding forward. man's enjoying this, I think. And a fine cross too, well taken by Augustine. Rugby has to make the long run back as Juan Jose is up at number, starts a move on the far side for Real. There's Anka. Tackled by Hewitt. The Aberdeen dugout. Alex Ferguson still not indulging in any look of satisfaction or pleasure yet. There's McGee, and now Neil Simpson. What a fine match he's had in midfield for Aberdeen. Vince Hewitt's in space, the Spanish defence is stretched, chance for McGee, can he make it three? Oh, he tried to be very deliberate with his shots, but now the Real side having to live dangerously at the back, have to throw everything forward, and that might give Aberdeen a chance to clinch the match.
Well, possibly the best player, John, has been Metcon. He's played very well for him, along with the goalkeeper. He's played very, very well, kept him in the game. And they've lost him at the back now, and really they're just hoping that they can achieve something, give themselves a chance of penalty kicks.
Archie Knox not looking too happy about the tackle by Juan Jose on Peter Weir. Juan Jose in turn looking unhappy about Weir lying on the ground. No question about it, it was a foul.
I think Archie's just telling someone to get the champagne and ice job.
Well, let's hope it's worthwhile. Minutes ticking away, just over 3 minutes left. I wonder how difficult it is for Real to pick up the pace and show the urgency which was lacking from the play for most of the match. Playing it forward, John Hewitt giving chase, and Augustine forced to come out of his box. Almost lost it to Gordon Strachan. Well, the keeper has done well for Real tonight, but perhaps not quite well enough. 2-1 to Aberdeen, 2.5 minutes of extra time left. Good turn by Hewitt. Is he dwelling on the ball too long? Setting it up for Simpson. Well, Neil Simpson could have taken all the strain out of it for Aberdeen. Hewitt doing so well. What a great impact he's made in the match. Simpson's shot just going agonisingly wide.
Good chance, Joe, once again to seal the game completely. But there you are, the thing about Real Madrid, they're trying to get up there, but they're not showing any great purpose, any great method.
Derek, a little chip back to Leighton from Doug Rugby. You can see the clock, 2 minutes left. 2-1 to Aberdeen, goals from Black early on, then John Hewitt in extra time. Just one from the penalty spot from Juanito in the first half for Real. San Jose cutting out the frills now, thumping the ball downfield. No free kick given. The Spaniards wanted one for Miller's challenge. That's a foul surely on Gordon Strachan. No, the referee will not stop the play again. This is Gallego. Stilikin knocking it down for Bonnet. That's for Ankel. That's a foul, I think, by Willie Miller, yes. He did appear to catch the ankles of the Spanish player. And now this is a very tense moment again for Aberdeen. There's the tackle by Willie Miller. Yes, the ball eluded him, he took the player. And the free kick was taken by Juanito, and it's going to be retaken. The referee hadn't given authority to the Spanish players to go ahead. And that's rather a pity because Juanito appeared to make a mess of things. Now it's every Aberdeen player back in his own box.
Very tense moment for Aberdeen, Joe.
Now will this be a direct shot? The ball is lined up by the referee. Oh, that was very close indeed. Salguero with a thundering shot. He must have missed the post by inches. There it goes again. Well, what a let-off that was for Aberdeen. Jim Leighton at full stretch.
Well, I think that was a let-off, Joe. That man for a second or two thought that was in, and that would have been real hurt to Aberdeen. Real bad blow for them would have been. But they've got it. I think that'll be Real Madrid's last chance, I would think.
Last chance indeed. There goes the final whistle. Aberdeen have won the European Cup Winners' Cup. And the celebrations now begin, both on the field and off. The referee, stops the match. Aberdeen the winners by 2-1. A rousing performance by the Aberdeen side. They showed talent, skill, commitment, strength. John Hewitt, the man who got the goal in extra time after Eric Blank's first half goal was equalised by Juanito from the penalty spot. And now all Scotland can rejoice. The Aberdeen players still out there in the field. Presentation of the trophy will have to wait.
I think it's a magnificent moment for Aberdeen, Jock. I'm absolutely delighted for Fergie. I'm delighted for the players because they deserve to win this final tonight because they gave all the commitment that was needed. They took the game to Real all the time. They really had a tremendous night. And look at them, they're going to enjoy it, and good luck to them as well.
And the Aberdeen players now coming to their supporters to salute them for the backing they had. Here's the moment no one in Aberdeen or Scotland will forget for a very long time. There's John McMaster, who undoubtedly is one of Aberdeen's heroes tonight. He had a superb match for my money. Let's look at the goal again from a different angle. McGee's beautiful left foot cross, headed home by Hewitt. And well, we won't tire of seeing that for a very long time. The Aberdeen players still anxious to greet their supporters. And the presentation of the trophy still being required to wait. There's the contingent of Aberdeen supporters. Must be about 10,000 anyway inside the stadium. And that performance from Aberdeen makes the whole affair worthwhile. No question of there being luck attached to the Aberdeen victory. They were a better side throughout. Archie Knox greeting John McMaster. Photographers on the field looking for all the Aberdeen players, for the manager Alec Ferguson who's out there in the middle. There's Peter Weir, who's beautifully chipped past to Mark McGee, set up the move for the winning goal. Archie Knox being lifted aloft on the shoulders of John McMaster and John Hewitt. And the celebrations, I fear, may well go well into the night. Well done at the Aberdeen physio, enjoying the occasion also. The third Scottish club side to win a European competition. And Aberdeen have certainly done it in style, conquering teams like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. So they didn't do it the easy way. So the presentation of the trophy will be made whenever the Aberdeen players are prepared to go back into the middle. It'll be made on the field of play, and the presentation will be made by the president of UEFA, Dr. Artemio Franchi of Italy. Willie Miller looks very calm and composed, leading these Aberdeen players who will now collect medals which they'll cherish for the rest of their lives. So the officials, UEFA officials, now re-establishing some order to enable the presentation of the trophy to take place. And the Aberdeen supporters waiting to greet Willie Miller as he walks forward. Dr. Franchi about to hand over the trophy. Carlos Santillana, the beaten Real Madrid captain, looks on as Willie Miller holds aloft the European Cup Winners' Cup, backed by that squad of players which really didn't have a weakness tonight. Some tremendous individual performances, one of them by Neil Simpson holding a trophy now. Jim Leighton did well when he was called upon on 2 or 3 vital occasions. Mark McGee going past. John McMaster with a trophy in his head. Peter Weir, who came on to a great game after the interval. So the medals are now collected. Must take you back, Billy.
Well, it does a whole lot of his job, but really, this is a night for Aberdeen to enjoy. Maybe for me to remember past glories, but certainly for Aberdeen to enjoy this night, and it's terrific for them. It's great. As you mentioned, Jock, they really didn't have a weakness tonight. Everyone contributed their own way. Some obviously that little bit better than others, but Wasn't it magnificent? You take off the lad Black who scored the first goal, you bring on a sub and he scores a winner for you. What a marvellous night for those two boys, and what a marvellous night for everyone in Aberdeen. And what a marvellous night for Fergie and Archie, because they've obviously worked hard and they've seen that progress in the hole for it. It's there for them.
So we might now have a chance to have a word with Aberdeen manager Alex Ferguson. Ian St John's down there trying to find him for a quick word. We'll hang on for that and hear what the Aberdeen manager has to say, if he can be extricated from that crowd of officials, photographers, supporters.
It's just hit me. It's the greatest moment of my life. But I'll tell you, it's a magnificent performance. On the conditions, I thought we thoroughly deserved it. They're the ones that did it. The players out there, proud of them.
And anyone in particular, Alex, you felt it more than anyone else?
No, in this moment, I mean, with some great players, you know, Miller, Stackett, Stinton, McGee, you're great players, Weir, but they all did it. It's a team performance.
Ali, what were the fans? They're singing here behind me, they're going mad.
I love them.
And there's 12,000 of them here. There didn't seem to be any Spanish fans here at all. They drowned them.
Oh, there was no doubt. If there was 20,000 spiders, they'd have been drowned.
Alex, obviously, your young players, Terry Black and John Hewitt, did a marvellous amount of work here tonight. You must have been proud of them coming through something like
Well, an experience in itself to come to a European Cup final so young. What can you say about it? I mean, they showed experience at times, the enthusiasm okay at times, but oh, it was marvellous.
And a few celebrations coming up now, Alex.
What an is it going to be, believe me.
Alex, marvellous. Everyone in Britain, I'm sure, is proud of you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks.
Now, thanks then to Alex Ferguson. Our congratulations to him. Our reporter was Bob Patience. And what a marvellous night for all Scots, for Aberdeen in particular. That's a tremendous performance against one of the great sides in European football over so many seasons.
An occasion to relish, an occasion to remember, and these Aberdeen players will certainly remember for a very long time. So will their supporters. So the happy news from Gothenburg is Aberdeen have won the cup by 2-1 goals from Black and Hewitt.
So a final score then here at Gothenburg. Aberdeen 2, Real Madrid 1. It's back to the studio.
And with me again, Dennis Law, those 12,000 Aberdonians braving those atrocious conditions were justly rewarded, weren't they, Dennis?
Oh, magnificent performance by Aberdeen. In the second half of the normal time, they dominated the game. But in extra time, the young players like Cooper and Simpson came through, and we saw the skill of Weir and Strachan, and really they deserved to win. And when you look at the chances that they had, the score should have been 6-2.
Yes, I mean, they could have justified an early reward in that second half. They were supreme in every single department, weren't they?
The goalkeeper had a magnificent game. It was a bit of a slip for the cross, of course, which he missed, and Hewitt scored the goal. But when you look at the three chances, 2 by Black, 1 by Strachan, really were great saves.
Right, well, they've won the European Cup Winners' Cup. We're delighted about it. We're going to take a short break now, actually, Dennis, and we're back to see the highlights and how Aberdeen won it. And triumph, showing great spirit, temperament and character in winning the European Cup Winners' Cup. Let's have a look now just how they did it.
Strachan. A good shot! Oh, against the crossbar and knocked down there by Eric Black. A tremendous...
He took it on, over at Cam, and there was Hewitt at the back post. The Aberdeen fans are going mad behind us here. Tremendous scenes.
That's the real Peter Weir. And that's the brilliant John Hewitt. And that's 2-1 to Aberdeen.
And anything other than victory would have been a total injustice, wouldn't it, Dennis?
Yes, I think Alex Ferguson has done a marvellous job at Aberdeen. When they played Liverpool in the European Cup 3 years ago, they lost the game in the first 5 minutes. Now, they've learned a great deal since then, and we've seen them beat Bayern Munich in the quarter-final. Now they beat Real Madrid, and really, they trounced them. They dominated the second half, extra time, everything, and created the chances. And when you think of all the young players that they've got in the side, likes of Cooper and Simpson, I mean, it must be marvellous to think that they've played against Real Madrid and beat them well.
They've done Alex Ferguson proud. Brian Moore was delighted with that goal. I thought he was a Brazilian commentator for a few moments. Let's have a look at it again anyway. You can read it for us, because he said it was a way across. The ball, it started by a way, wasn't it, really?
Yes, and the ball down to Mark McGee, but Hewitt making his run, and he timed it perfectly. Now, the keeper had a marvellous game, but he rigged on the cross, and there was Hewitt to knock it in.
It was amazing how they lost their impetus in the first half. They sustained it throughout the second half completely, didn't they, Aberdeen?
Well, of course, they got off to a good start. They got the goal in 7 minutes, and in that 10-minute spell, they really were controlling the game. And then Alex McLeish made his only mistake of the game when he knocked the ball back, which was fatal. And, of course, it was a penalty. Juanito got it. Now, that knocked a bit of stuffing out of the Aberdeen side. But then they came back, and I knew they'd come back in the second half. After Alex Ferguson had a word at half-time, they would do, and they did.
Well, I must say, our hearts were in our mouths at the end, because 2 minutes to go, they had that free kick. Anything could have happened here. They could have lost it here, or at least said they could have levelled the score here so easily.
Well, of course, when we saw the ball go through the lineup, then you felt that it was going to be in. It would have really been an injustice had it done.
Yes. Actually, when you think of the stars in that side, I mean, Gordon Strachan, there were flashes of absolute brilliance. Eric Black, before he went off, it's ironical that the man who scored the goal was Black's substitute, John Hewitt, wasn't it?
Yes, of course, and he did it in the last round as well. But when you think of all the kicking that the Spaniards did, and they do, and they are cynical, and the referee, who was, I think he's 50, it was his last game, I think, he didn't control them. But Aberdeen didn't retaliate.
No.
They got on with playing the game, and that's what they are. They are a football side. And little Strachan in...
Well, we've got one word for you, actually. Well, but just wait. What is that final word on triumph?
Well, of course, Aberdeen, magnificent victory. Magnificent.
From Dennis and myself, good night.
Coming on, John Hewitt, in fact, who got the winner against Bayern Munich in the quarter-final. So his pedigree is excellent. That's a good ball from Peter Weir. It looks as though it might be a blasted goal. It can't really be anything else. And the referee wants the Aberdeen wall back another couple of yards. Salguero with the blast, right past the post. Aberdeen have won the Cup Winners' Cup by 2-1.
And on Thursday afternoon, the team returned to a marvellous welcome in Aberdeen, where 100,000 fans lined the streets of the Granite City to celebrate the club's victory. There was a remarkable turnout too at Pittodrie, where the team paraded the cup to an ecstatic crowd. Well, marvellous scenes, Jimmy, and they really deserve to win it.
Oh, absolutely super, Ian. Actually, they should have won it over 90 minutes, shouldn't they, really?
Yes.
They were that better side. Really great performance. Very proud of them. They're tremendous stuff. Great.
Well, after the game, I was up at the press reception, and Di Stefano was saying that a couple of players he thought were outstanding were Peter Weir and Gordon Strachan. Now, Weir is a smashing winger because he's one of those fellas that have gone out the game, really, Jimmy, hasn't he? You know, a guy who can get the ball and run at people and take them on. I mean, he had this run from well inside his own half. He skipped by 1-2, carries it on, and it's not often we see that, Jimmy, is it?
No, he's a pigeon catcher, isn't he, this lad? He goes past them as though they're standing still, which is something, as you say, Ian, you don't often see. And he had an exceptional game at just doing that. I mean, it was quite unbelievable. You'd have thought the full-back would have sussed him out, but I think he kept tripping over his long hair at the back there.
Well, there was another aspect of the game that I thought was terrific, and that was the fitness of Aberdeen, because going into the extra time, you know, we were wondering, would they last the pace? But here's a little incident coming out that I think illustrates it. Now, that's Mark McGee, centre-forward, pulling the ball down, again inside his own half. Now, just keep your eye on him. And there he goes on a tremendous burst, and that's 2 minutes from the end of extra time. So his legs must have been dead heavy, and yet he got there. The ball just held up in the mud, and he managed to set the goalkeeper with it. But I thought the fitness was fantastic, Jimmy.
Oh, I think so. The Real Madrid looked a bedraggled outfit to me, and when a man like Di Stefano puts on a defender, obviously playing for penalties, I think that really what it was all about, Aberdeen's superiority, their fitness, their control. Everybody played well. I thought the back two, apart from the one McLeish set upset, and Strachan. I thought he got stronger and stronger as the game went on. They were all great, Ian. But what about this this goal business?
Well, there's one thing about the game, Jimmy. If you are wondering about the Brazilian-style commentary on the winning goal, well, I've got a confession to make. Just listen to it again.
That's a good ball from Peter Weir. And now Aberdeen with McGee making the break. And Hewitt waiting in the middle!
No, I've got to hold my hands up. That wasn't Brian Moore. That was me. Because when the ball went in the net, I jumped up and I had this microphone near my mouth and I jumped up shouting goal. So I'm afraid everybody thought it was old Brian, and here it was me getting him into trouble.
No, I mean, I knew it wouldn't be Brian Moore. He only cheers when Gillingham win. I knew it was you, but you watch yourself, son. You'll get a rupture doing that. And congratulations. I've never known so many Scotsmen born in Aberdeen, Ian. What happened to Celtic and Rangers? You know, it must be the air up there.
Anyway, they were all asking for you, Jimmy, over there.
Oh, great. I'll face them one of these days.
Yeah. Good, man. I'll talk to you in a minute. But let's turn to today's league.
And Sid Nathan, the referee, just reminding Christie to keep his head up.
England, a band of rain can be seen. With the present polar regime affecting the region, hard and widespread frost expected with scattered wintry showers in districts. Wednesday will dawn a crisp day with early frosts expected to linger in shady highland glens. All parts will have a bright if not sunny start to the day with wintry showers affecting the more northern districts. During the afternoon, the wintry showers in the north will become increasingly isolated, giving most parts a sunny but cool afternoon. And there it is, that's the weather outlook.
In association with the Daily Record and Sunday Mail.
And now a change of programme. Tonight's network first documentary follows at 11:10. But now, to mark the end of an era in Aberdeen football, we look at the career and the future of Willie Miller.
Porteous with the free kick. There's Willie Miller!
The sensational sacking of Aberdeen boss Willie Miller ended a love affair with the Pittodrie club spanning almost a quarter of a century. Although one of the club's greatest players, it was his inability to match those achievements as manager that led to his downfall just 3 years into his managerial career. The 39-year-old, born in Glasgow, joined Aberdeen from Easter Craig's Boys Club in 1971. Just 4 years later, he won the first of 65 caps for Scotland. In 1983, Miller led the Aberdeen club to their greatest triumph, victory over Real Madrid in the European Cup Winners' Cup. Coupled with a string of domestic victories, Willie Miller was elevated to near sainthood in the eyes of the Pittodrie faithful. It was indeed supporter pressure that persuaded the Dons board to sack Alex Smith and hand over the reins to Miller in 1992. But after hanging up his boots, the fans' favourite just couldn't live up to expectations. This came as no real surprise to many football commentators who'd questioned the wisdom of appointing someone lacking any managerial experience. This season has been the most miserable of all for Miller. He suffered the humiliation of seeing Aberdeen crash out of the UEFA Cup at the hands of Latvian Minos Skonteriga. But the seeds of the Aberdeen manager's downfall were sown at domestic level. A 3-1 defeat away to Kilmarnock on Saturday was just the latest in a run of embarrassing scorelines that have left the Dons second bottom of the Premier League. With just 12 games to go, Aberdeen are now in real danger of being relegated for the first time in their 91-year history. For Willie Miller, it's a time for reflection. Reflection on what went wrong and contemplation of what may yet lie ahead. And for Aberdeen, the city and the club, it's the end of an era. Tonight, Willie Miller talks exclusively to Grampian Television.
The minute you get offered a job in managership, you expect to get sacked, and I think every manager would say that. Over the past season, it's been particularly bad in terms of the pressure that's been put on from the media, and I would like to take the Aberdeen fans out of that because, to be quite frank, Aberdeen fans have been magnificent to me. They've stuck by us, they've stuck by the team, they've given us some great support, particularly away from home. I mean, I'll never forget when we went down to Motherwell and we played Motherwell and were in a very precarious position at that time. We got a 1-0 victory against a team that was sitting top of the league at that present time. And really, a lot goes down to their support. But a manager's position is always precarious. I mean, what you've got to do as a manager is keep a level head, have a vision, decide which way you're going, and see that path through. And the only thing that's going to take you off that path is the fact that you don't have a job anymore.
So what would you say to people who were critical this season of one of the things which was raised time and again was the way you changed the style of play of the team?
Well, I think everybody likes to speak about football and say that they would like to see the thing played this way, and we've got to get into a more continental way of playing. We've got to play the ball on the ground, and that's what we tried to do this season. We tried a new formation at the beginning of the season, and to be honest, the players found it very difficult to cope with. And I think that they found it difficult because basically in Britain we're not as technically gifted as the players abroad, and it's something that we've really got to work very hard on. But the fact that you have a bad run, all of a sudden you go from having a bad run to results are the most important thing. And I believe now that at the end of the day results are the most important thing, and you shouldn't really get sidetracked with what people want to see, because if you've got a winning team then they'll come and watch you no matter how you play.
Is management, football management, is it a dirty game? Is it unfair? Do boards treat their managers well? Is 3 years long enough to prove yourself?
No, I mean, 3 years, prove yourself. My record over the 3 years basically has been second best to Rangers. We've been runners-up twice in the league. We've been in cup finals against Rangers. We've challenged them heavily for 2 years. During the summer I decided, look, I'm fed up with challenging. We've got to do something to change. Come what may, we've got to make these changes. Senior players went out. New blood had to be brought in. To finance that new blood, I had to sell players. To be quite honest, I didn't really want to sell, but there was a market for these players, and I had to sell them to bring in the fresh blood. And I felt that the turnover was necessary. And I think you get to a point where if you're second best all the time, you want to change a thing because you want to be the top of the tree. Unfortunately, when you bring new players in, it takes them a while to settle in. No, I didn't think it would take us this long. I mean, we've had a bad run in the league, a bad run throughout the season in the league. But we reached the semi-final of the Coca-Cola Cup, but unfortunate to go out to Celtic. We're still in the Scottish Cup. I believe that the players that have been brought in will be good acquisitions for the club. I think that we've got to get more quality players. I mean, I hear Tommy Burns and I hear Walter Smith does it by action. Tommy Burns did it by word, is now doing it by action, and saying that to bring real quality into the club you've got to buy players £1 million plus. Now we don't have £1 million plus. The directors have told me that we don't have £1 million plus, and the fans have got to know that. So to compete now with Rangers and Celtic, then you should be in the £1 million plus category, because that's what they're going out and buying, and we can't do that. So that's a burden. We've got to try and do it, or I had to try and do it in a lesser budget. And as I say, in the league it hasn't worked out. But I believe guys like Colin Woodthorpe, guys like Billy Dodds, John Ingalls and Peter Harrison are going to be good acquisitions for the club. But we need more of that type of player to bring into the club. But unfortunately the resources aren't there to bring these players in.
So you're clearly taking a longer term view?
Well, you've got to, a club like Aberdeen, you've got to take a longer term view. And with that longer term view, you know, I'll put it down to the board, how I saw the club should be structured. And that's been structured over the last 2 to 3 years. And to put more emphasis on the youth. I've tried to get a first team pool of 20, 22 quality players. So you're reducing your first team and you're increasing the youth. To that end, we've introduced 9 to 12 year olds, and we now coach them from 9 right up to the age of 16, where we bring them onto the staff. Now, with the great greatest will in the world. I know I'm not going to be there to see the 9-year-olds coming through, but at the same time it's the right way to go for the club. My staff have worked very hard. We've competed in the under-18 league last season and we won it, and we're sitting just about the top this season with games in hand, and we've got a good chance of winning it this year. We bring in young players, Stephen Glass in particular, who's a real exciting prospect, not only for Aberdeen but within the game in Scotland, and I'm sure he'll become a class player in the years to come, and that's the way you've got to go at a club like Aberdeen.
Well, why is it then, do you think, clubs like Aberdeen are not prepared to wait for that to happen? And why is it that we have, as you've mentioned earlier on, we do not have the technical skills that we used to have?
Well, probably why we can't wait is that, and probably it's my own fault, because I was part of a team that had a very special blend and managed to come up with a winning formula over a period of something like 8 years. And now, probably the fans and everybody has got an expectation that Aberdeen should be constantly winning trophies. Now that's great, and in the early days we were competing on a level playing field with Rangers and Celtic, because we were going out and spending 300,000 in Peter Beer, and Rangers were spending 250, 300,000 in their players. So we're all competing on a level playing field, but now it's changed. I mean, Rangers are going to spend millions in building a team, and Celtic progressively have got their act sorted out, and they're now spending millions, and to bring the quality that they know they require to compete at domestic level and European level, and we've been left behind a bit.
But it's a depressing scenario you paint, isn't it, for Scottish football, that if you can't compete with the Rangers and you can't clearly financially, then how are you expected to win trophies?
Well, that's why I structured the club the way I've did, and that we bring young players on. We bring exciting prospects like Stephen Glass on. We work very hard at that. I mean, my staff basically work 7 days a week. We've got games on Sunday afternoon down at the beachfront there. We were under 18 team. My staff work 2 nights a week, coaching 9 to 16-year-olds. And people go on about coaching and say it's bad for the game. It's not bad for the game. We coach players and how to control the ball, how to pass the ball, and that's what we all want to see in the game. And that's what we've worked for over the last 3 years. And Aberdeen, not just the last 3 years, but Aberdeen's got a fine reputation of doing that. And I'm only continuing the work that's been set up by other managers in the past. And that's the only way we're going to improve Scottish football.
What about Willie Miller now? I mean, you had a very special relationship as a player with the fans. I remember saying to Terry Scott, who's been with the club now, I think more than 30 years, I said, Terry, you've seen so many marvellous Aberdeen players over the years. If you had to pick one, which one would it be? And without thinking, he said Willie Miller. Now, you had a clear relationship over a long period as a player with the fans. Did it change when you became a manager? Did things change in your mind and their minds, do you think?
I wouldn't say so. I think we've had the relationship that's built up over the years. It's not been a rosy relationship all the time. I mean, I remember being booed off the park. I remember selling a goal in the Scottish Cup tie against Dundee at Pittodrie and being booed off the park for it. So it hasn't always been, you know, Willie Miller and the fans' great relationship. And I don't think relationships work that way. Relationships work by mutual respect, and you've got to earn that respect. And I worked hard to earn that respect as a player. I hope that I've worked hard to earn that respect as a manager. Unfortunately, it's been terminated early. I would have loved it to go on for a longer period of time to earn that respect more from the fans. But what I would like to say to the fans is I've got great respect for them because they've supported me through thick and thin. And it hasn't always been bad since I've taken over as manager. We've had some good times, not just quite getting there in terms of trophies, but we've had a lot of good times. Unfortunately, we've had bad times, but they've been very supportive throughout the bad times this season. Unfortunately, now it's got to a stage where probably the short-term future of the club has overtaken the long-term future of the club. And I've been a victim of that. I accept that. People have got to make decisions. I don't agree with the decision, but I'll accept it. I'll leave this club with dignity. I walked out the front door today. I've always done things with dignity. And I hope that when I took the job over, I did it in a certain manner. And when I leave Aberdeen Football Club, I'll do it in a certain manner. And I hope that in between, that I've charted a course that I feel will take Aberdeen into the future and be successful for the next man taking over.
How would you have described your style of management? You are, by nature, a quiet man. You're not an outgoing personality. You're different from lots of other managers in the game. How would you describe your style of management?
That's because you don't know me, Frank. I mean, I think my friends, I've got quite a tight bunch of friends. I think my friends basically know me as not the person that you're describing. There is a persona about Willie Miller being, keeps away from everybody, but I keep my distance, for the press, because I think we've got to. My style of management is one where I recognise my strengths and I recognise my weaknesses. I've brought people to the club in Roy Aitken that I know he could complement me. I've taken the easy way out and probably made a popular choice with the fans, and we brought Alec McLeish into the management team. But I felt I needed somebody different from Alec and different from myself. And I waited a long time to bring Roy Aitken here. And a lot of eyebrows were raised because Roy Aitken was a Celtic player, and he used to come up here, and obviously the fans gave him a lot of dog's abuse. But he's a good man. And I know his strengths. He's got good character. He's good with the players. His personality is good within the dressing room, and he's just what I needed. So I brought him here, and he's done an excellent job for me. So Willie Miller knows his strengths, Willie Miller knows his weaknesses, and he puts a team together to blend my strengths with the staff that I bring in. And it's not Willie Miller that kicks doors down that's emphasised in the press recently. If somebody needs a kick up the backside, I'll give them a kick up the backside. If they need patted in the back, I'll do that as well. If I've got to take them in my office and have a quiet word with them, I'll do that too. Because I've played under a lot of managers, and you pick up tips from each one. And they've all got a certain thing, and they're not all just hard, or they're not all just soft. They've got different attributes that you can take into your own style. And I feel that I've learnt a lot from them, and I've put to good use in the term that I've been at the club as manager. And I hope the players appreciate that, and I hope perhaps I've made one or two players slightly better.
Did you miss playing?
Oh yeah. I mean, playing, everything else. Management's all right. Coaching is quite good. Playing is a pinnacle. You play, you enjoy it. The best part even of management is when you go out and you have a kick-about with the boys and you get involved in the training rather than all the organisation and the tactical side. So playing is a pinnacle, but you've got to stop sometime. I believe I stopped at the right time. I stopped at the top. I enjoyed my playing career at the club and at international level, but time goes on. You go into management with your eyes open. Unfortunately, we've now come to a stage where I'm not any longer manager of Aberdeen Football Club, and I've got to look to the future. I'll take a few weeks to reflect on that, and then I've no doubt that I'll be champing at the bit to get back into the torture again.
Well, there is an interesting point there, because many people, even when the Aberdeen job was up for grabs, as it were, when your name was mentioned, many people had thought that the Aberdeen job was the only one you wanted, and that you would not have been prepared, given your standing, as it were, in the business community in Aberdeen. You might not have been prepared to have moved away. Would you move away now?
Well, the first thing is you're correct. The Aberdeen job was the only one that I wanted. Until, I would say, probably 9 o'clock this morning, it was the only one that I wanted. Unfortunately, that's been taken out of my hands. I don't have any say in that matter now. I'm no longer the Aberdeen manager. I wish whoever gets the job all the success in the world. I wish the club, I wish the fans, because I've had some great times, and you don't leave a club without feeling, having been associated with it for 26 years and saw some great times. You don't leave a club without real feeling, and I wish them great, but I've got to look at myself now, and I've got to look at the future for myself and my family, and I'm no 40 yet. I've got quite a livelihood ahead of me. Yeah, I'm settled in Aberdeen, I've got business interests in Aberdeen, but if a tasty job can come up, then you'd have to consider it. I mean, Kenny Dalglish went through the same thing when he left Liverpool, and he got a real invitation to go and spend as much money as he wanted to build a team that could win the Premier Championship. He's doing not too bad just now. I don't know if I'll get that offer or another, and that's a fact of life. It's been taken out of my hands, and I've just got to go on with it.
If there was anything that you can think of right now which you would have changed as a manager along the way, what would you go back and change?
Not too much, to be honest with you. More quality. I would have loved to have brought more quality into the team this season. If I had more money to spend, then I could have done that. I don't honestly feel that there was another route for Aberdeen Football Club during the summer. Jim Bett, fantastic player, but getting to an age where really change was necessary. He's went down to Hearts and he's did well, but you do that. You get a lift from going to another club. You get a lift from change. At Pittodrie, it wasn't happening for him. He was getting a wee bit of stick from the fans last season. They had to change. Robert Connor, the same. Alec McLeish, the same. He was getting a bit of stick from the fans last year because the legs were beginning to go a wee bit. And great player, fantastic. All of them fantastic players for the club, but you had to change. I left 2 years ago as well, and you've got to find a place for me. You've got to find a place for McLeish. You've got to find a replacement for Connor, Jim Bett, and Stuart McKinney, who's doing well just now, but getting to that stage in his career, you've got to find replacements for international players. Now you tell me where you get replacements for international players. You get them, it's going to cost you. And we've brought in Billy Dodge, who'll be a great player for the club. John Ingalls, Colin Woodsthorpe, Peter Harrison, they'll all be great players for the club. Hopefully, your younger players, your Jesses, your Stephen Wright, your Gary Smith, your Scott Booth will commit themselves long term to the club, and they'll become players of real stature and standing within the game. And you get that blend of youth and quality coming in. And eventually you see Aberdeen Football Club with 5 or 6 international players in the team. Just now we've got one fit, recognised international player. Now, that is because the recognised international players have got too old and they've retired. And you haven't even managed to recoup cash for them to go out and spend because they've got to that age. And that's the problem now faced with the club, is replacing the quality players that they've lost, and also building and giving these young players time to establish themselves and be the players that they should be, whether that's this season, whether it's next season. And that's what the club's got to do, but they've got to find money. They've got to find money to compete with Rangers and Celtic. One way or another, they've got to do it, and the board of directors have got to stand up to that, and the fans have got to realise that you're not going to get quality spending 200,000 or 300,000. You've got to aim higher than that. And I'm only disappointed that I'm not there to bring the first £1 million player to the club.
Well, 26 years in one place is a long time for any employee. Must be a tremendous wrench for you now in many ways. Do you have the appetite, really truthfully, to cast Aberdeen aside, as it were, and move on to bigger and better things?
I'll never cast Aberdeen aside, and I think that's a wrong term to use. I'm in a situation now, and I'm a realist, and I've been a realist all my life. I mean, you're brought up in the East End of Glasgow, and that makes you a realist, and it makes you realise the quality of people that are in this world, and there's not a lot of them. And when you get them and put them together and they support you, then that's great. Unfortunately, that's not the case just now. But I've got to look to the future. And the future is now, for me, I'll always have my thoughts for the fans, I'll always have my thoughts for the town, but really I've gave them everything for 26 years. I don't think anybody could ask any more of me. Now I've got to look at my own future.
This really happened.